yourself. You might have something that you want to get done that is really hard. So I've got some good tools for you. But first, I want to just share the allegory that we're on together. It's the way and wayfinders. We're people of the way. And I like to think of the way as looking like that. A nice path in Maine, not too steep. And on this way to Jesus that we're following, there are only 2 trail rules. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself. That's it. The rules seem simple, but they ask everything of us. We were talking about gifts last night. That's your backpack full of gifts. Okay? You've got a knapsack that you carry around with you. It's an invisible knapsack. But we were talking last night and some today about what are some of the gifts that stuff, that credit card thing, what's in your wallet. What's in your backpack? That's discernment. What gifts do you have? And the rules say you have to take every gift of your heart, your soul, your mind, your possessions, everything you're carrying with you. Open your pack and share it freely with anyone in need. And to keep loving and following the voice at the other end of the path. That's it. That's our job. Sometimes it looks like that. Is anyone here in that kind of path moment right now? Things are sort of open and grassy and, you got some choices. No, we'll get to you. We'll get to you. We'll get to you. Someone there? Right? This is me as a young parent, a clueless young parent, making it up as I went. Day after day, get up and do the same thing with as much love as I can muster. And some of you are taking care of people. If you're caretakers and you've got daily responsibilities, it can feel like this. And the only way forward is narrow, and it's steep, and it's hard. This is when you get to go on retreat. Our paths are down in the valley. The valley is great. I mean, it's a really lush and fertile place. It's where real life is happening. But sometimes it's great to get up and get perspective. And up there on the mountain of a retreat, you know how it is when you go on retreat. The air is a little thinner, and you can really take time out of your life down there in the valley and get perspective and ask some big, important questions. That's what we go on retreat for, partly. Big questions like, where's God calling me next? What have been my most formative experiences? And what wisdom have they given me? How can I recognize the spark of God in every person? Big, openy-uppy questions that we encounter when we go into retreat to listen for God's voice. But here's the thing. We have to go back off the mountain, right? Back down into the valley. You know that feeling after you've been to the most transporting retreat and you've got some really cute speakers, like Ani and me, and we're inspiring you and you think, oh, this is great. And then you get back down into the valley and, oh my gosh, I'm back in my life and the cat litter needs changing and I can't find my car keys. And that's everyday life. Does that ever happen to you? And you think, oh, didn't I get anything out of that retreat? And that feeling is what inspired me, along with what I told you last night in my living room, to read this book and create the ministry I have, because I feel it's so important when people leave, like tomorrow when you leave, that you go with some things that you can really do and practice and take with you. And here's the thing about Episcopalians. Sometimes we in the church can get kind of abstract. We have such beautiful, inspiring language and such lofty goals. Michael, my husband, is a rector, and he would get beautiful things in the mail with wonderful goals and visions and statements of faith. And we'd read them and we'd think, well, okay, this is beautiful. I love this language. But nothing happens unless you choose a goal to work on. You gotta have a goal. Goals are so key for making things come alive. I mean, God can make things come alive, but as a human being, it really helps to have a goal and know where you're going on your path. Stan, you were saying when you get up in the morning, right, you think just one thing. I think, wasn't that you? And it was, and I remember the part about forgiveness at the end, the forgiving prayer at the end, but that was focusing you for the day, right? It's one thing I'm going to do today. The power of a goal to actually make the difference in Stan's life or my life, knowing what you're doing. So I really encourage you, when you come across something inspiring, form a goal for yourself out of it. What does it specifically mean I'm going to do with that? If I'm looking for the God in every person, does that mean I have a goal of, I'm going to make one up. You guys can probably think of better ones. I'm going to look deeply in someone's eyes once today. Or I'm going to ask my friend about that experience she had, and I'm really going to look for God in that experience. If you just try to sort of be a good listener or a good person, it's much harder to actually change. Goals are a way that God gets us walking forward on this path, on this way. So you got to have a goal. And in Wayfinders, everyone brings a goal. We go through the discernment, and then everyone chooses a goal that they really feel God is calling them to. And the kind of goals that we work on, I make them be very specific, not necessarily measurable. It's not a business, but specific. So you know what you've done when you get there. In other words, if you just want to be a better listener, how will you know you're a better listener? If you want to be an actress, be an actress isn't really specific enough to motivate you forward. You need to have a goal you're shooting for. So break it down. And what I want to do is I want to get cast in a part and get up on stage once. If I do that, I'm an actress, right? By definition. So I want to just encourage you, when you feel like you don't know how to go forward, just try to pull a juicy goal out of it. And I started with that because these tools only work if you know where you want to go. So here they are. These are the 3 best tools to get her done. The buddy system. Anyone who learned to swim or went to a lake with a camp, remember the buddy system? Spitty first drafts. We'll get back to that later. And micro movements. These were all taught to me by different people, and they are magic, especially when you combine them. Do you think he's still alive anymore? Yeah. How many of you are old enough to remember when this could appear in a magazine or even on television, right? Yeah. My kids are like, what? You put that stuff in magazines? Yeah. So this is the quintessential American hero. This is our icon, right? But here on the way, as we find our way, we have a different icon who does it a different way. Self-reliance. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We have a different person we're following who modeled a very different way of being with people. Even Jesus needed those guys around him. All of them, the women, the men, all of them. And he kept reaching out and bringing people in. It's a really different model than that guy, right? He's just got his horse. That's it. Yeah. Jesus was a radical. He was trying to get us to use the buddy system over and over and over. He tried to call us into community together. He tried to tell us that we're better, we're stronger when we're together, that where two or three are gathered in my name, something happens. That Paul writes about how we're all parts of the body, that we need each other. I think it's part of God's tricky plan. God's really tricky this way, because instead of just, giving Melanie all the gifts or giving Abby all the gifts and the rest of us just sort of take, he parceled them out to all of us so that we really need each other. That's really tricky, right? And he forces us to come together and share. He's, in fact, hardwired us to do that. It's in our bodies. It's in our human nature to want to be with other people, to need other people. And the buddy system simply takes that way that we're hardwired and it puts boots on its feet. It shows you can use it to actually get something done. Stephanie, this is the moment. I'm going to call you up in just a sec. So the buddy system, providing humans support and accountability since 15,000 BC, right? That's when we started to really depend on each other as humans. So here's a wonderful Wayfinders team that I love very much. This happened to be a Grace Church Wayfinders team. I've already blown it. I was going to say, who can recognize someone in the picture, but I gave it away. Stephanie's over there. She is, as you would imagine, the most colorful person in my office. And next to her is her teammate, Nancy. And Stephanie, do you want to tell about, I'm just going to give an illustration of the buddy system when you want to get something done. Okay. Would you be willing to tell them the story?
Sure. I warn you not to listen too closely to her. It could change your life. I joined this group. Darreby came to church one Sunday and gave this very inspirational talk about how we, had things in our life that we probably wanted to accomplish and weren't doing very well. So at the time you called them dream teams. You changed the name. So this is our dream team. Nancy and I were very happy to be put on a team with men because the other group was so noisy. This was a nice quiet group. Nancy's goal was to go back to college. She had done 2 years of college years ago. She was an X-ray.
50 years ago.
About 50 years ago. And her goal was to finish college. But we were teammates, so we had to make plans together. We had to share each other's plans on what we wanted to accomplish. And her big fear was walking into that college classroom the first day. And she talked about that a lot, how afraid she was about that because she'd be the oldest person there and she hadn't been to school for so many years. She didn't know what to do. So I said, tell you what, I'll walk you to class the first day. So I felt a lot like the parent of the kindergartner, that goes to school. But we drove up to the school. I met her at the front door and we walked in. And it was a magic moment because she just lit up when she walked in that room. And it was fine from then on. She was great. And she got her degree, about 2 years ago, I think. About 2 years ago. Had a fabulous big party about it, but it was a wonderful moment. And I got to be mom, although I think we were about the same age.
Thank you, Stephanie. It was the only graduation party I've ever gone to where everybody was just so amazed, and it's wonderful. So what Stephanie was providing for Nancy was just her presence, right? The power of your presence. That's one of the reasons that the buddy system really works. You all know this. I know you've used the buddy system. Your teammates can give you encouragement. They can give you a sympathetic ear when you need to gripe. They can give you reassurance you're not crazy for going for something big like becoming a deacon or inventing a balance belt to help people who have trouble with balance. That was Conrad's goal. That you're not crazy for that. Or if you are crazy, it's a good kind of crazy, right? They have courage for you when you lack your own. I mean, that's what you guys did together, right? And what you didn't say is she got in the room and it was long distance learning, and there was one student in there, and she felt like, and she sort of became his maternal role model. It changed. And the other thing that the buddy system does is it gives you an audience for your successes and your baby steps. When we're trying new things, and that's really what I'm talking about today, with these goals, hard, new, difficult things, you need recognition when you get something done, So the power of a buddy to really help you. How can you help the people you work with, or people in your congregation hook into that thing that God's given us, that gift of each other? When you want to get something done, sometimes you feel like it's selfish. They don't want to help me, go back to school. That's my problem. Or they don't want to help me figure out how to get my balance belt in front of some investors. But the magic of the buddy system is that it's mutual, right? You help me with this, I'll help you with my thing. It's what we were saying about listening and speaking. You don't have a relationship with someone. You don't build a relationship unless you're giving and taking. And I'll tell you, when you're a buddy, helping somebody else get something done, even something completely different. I mean, on my teams, for instance, the range of goals is extraordinary. Some people really are cleaning out their parents' house. Has anyone ever had to clean out a parent's house? It's a huge deal, right? And then other people are, writing books and starting nonprofits, and some people are just learning to listen more. And it doesn't matter the different goal. In fact, a variety of goals is wonderful, because another thing that happens when you use the buddy process is you have access to everyone's gifts, right? The more diverse the group is, the more gifts you've got there. That's why we're so strong in our diversity. That's why we need a lot of different people with us. It's sort of like this magic math. I think of God as like the magic mathematician. So much in the world they say to us, you're only as strong as your weakest link. It's back to the Marlboro guy, right? Tough and strong. The way God made us, we're as strong as any gift that someone has that's with us that they're willing to share. If I get audited, I have no idea what to do. But has anyone here ever been audited? Ugh. Oh, I'm so glad. Oh, really? Yeah, okay. It's awful. Okay. It's that stony path where you're just taking one step in front of the other, right? So I've never been audited, but let's say I was, am I a weak link? I kind of am, there I am, and you all are fine, and I'm being audited, but all of a sudden I've got a buddy, okay? And she's going to, pardon? But would you be willing to, I'm not being audited, but if I were, would you be willing to just talk to, can I take you out to Dairy Queen and we'll talk about what it was like?
I used to work at Dairy Queen. That really is a buddy.
Whoa. And you probably know all their secrets too. Yeah, I got to talk to you. I always wonder what's going on back there. I don't want to know too much. I did have a friend who worked there one summer, and he said that there was a moment where I think it was first thing in the morning, they took a block of wax and melted it into the coating, to make the coating.
Oh God, we never did that.
Okay, sorry. But what about the cup? We'll talk about that. But anyway, if I were being audited and I've got a buddy over here, all of a sudden I'm as strong as our strongest link, right? She's done it. I can share that. And, maybe there's something that you want to get done that I have some knowledge, or even just my physical presence. I'll go with you. You help me being audited, I will follow you anywhere, right? I'll help you with whatever you want. And imagine what would happen if you got a gang of people together. Wouldn't that be amazing? All these people, all with their own things they want to do, their own gifts, their own ministries that they want to bring alive. So it's not a group goal the way that you have in school or at the office. It's really different. It's like trying to bring everyone's spark alive, trying to get everyone's individual ministries to go, but you do it together. You're helping spark those calls in each other. And it's really fun. And I really believe God made us for this. This is just an incarnation of how he created us. But the flip side, of course, the buddy system does for you And I think I think it was Jan talking about accountability. Huge, right? So if we make a date to go to Dairy Queen for 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, the last thing I really want to do is think about, I don't know why I chose getting audited, but I'm glad now that I know you. Believe me, I'm going to call. The last thing I'm going to want to do is talk to anyone about getting audited, because I don't want to think about getting audited. It's awful. But if we have an appointment to do it, all of a sudden, if I don't show up, oh my gosh, I'm going to be really letting her down, right? So accountability is huge. And it's the other part of why working with a team or a buddy or a group is so powerful. Did anyone here make it all the way through high school? Anybody? Yeah? No, wave them high. It's hard. Okay. Who remembers high school vividly? Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, it's all PTSD over here. Okay. So sometimes people are like, yeah, but no, not this gang. They're like, whoa. But to be tender-hearted people in high school was probably a bummer in some ways. And there were probably some adjustments. I'm just guessing here, right? The way you guys are made, compassion. Hello. Oh no. Are you in Deacon?
Yes, I am.
Come on in.
Am I in the right place?
You are. Hey. 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 Do you feel the wave of love? We want to send you the wave of love. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for just loving her into her seat. Okay. She's a super deacon. Where was I? Someone help me. High school. Right. So high school. It's a miracle we graduate. Think of what you have to do to get through high school. You have to get up, and where I live at 5:30 in the morning to get the bus on time. Okay, long commutes. And you have to go listen to, in some cases, some really boring people. And sometimes your parents haven't let you have coffee yet, and you just have to get through school. And it can be humiliating and difficult, and all those papers and stress and work. Why did you show up every day? Why didn't you just stay in bed? What? Report card. There's one, right? Built-in accountability. What else? Let's say that your report card wasn't motivating you. You didn't care. Was there anything else motivating you? Right? Right? Yeah, all that. Built-in sports. Built-in accountability is how we do amazing things. You guys got an education because you had to show up. But somehow when we get up into our adult lives, we sort of drop that as something that we use as a tool to motivate us. You can actually build it in when you're trying to achieve something. Get a friend and trade some accountability with them. It really works. So here is one of my wonderful teams. Jackie, the woman at the very bottom in the striped shirt, she's the one who is now talking about human trafficking. She was the photographer who thought, what do I have to give? Whose husband is a pilot, and now goes all over the world teaching about it. But the teammate I want to talk to you about is actually Frances, the woman in the red vest. Frances had a goal. It was a huge obstacle in her life. Sometimes wayfinders come and there's an obstacle that's really keeping them from then pursuing their ministry. And she had a wonderful ministry that she wanted to set up with her son, who had some disabilities, and she wanted to set up a safe art space for people. But right now, she had a terrible problem. She called it her paperwork dragon. It looked like that. And what's in there is unfiled tax returns, letters from her ex-husband, lawyers, deeds, bills, flyers from Staples, everything. And she was so shut down by this. She wasn't able to get anything else done in her life. It just caused so much stress. And so she lived by herself. She kept it in the middle of her living room, so she'd have to trip over it every time so she would do something about it. So what we did was we provided some loving accountability, not just for her, but for us. What we did is we had, the old-fashioned sewing bees? We had a paperwork bee where we all got together And we all brought a dreaded project with us. I brought my photographs because, oh my gosh, I have years of the kids' photographs I have a burning guilt about that I'm not organizing them. And they're all, fading. And I don't want to talk about it. It's so awful. But anyway, we got together and everyone brought something and we sat around a table. We made an appointment. And of course, we didn't want to let each other down. So we all showed up. And we didn't have any skills to help her. None of us were a lawyer. None of us were, a divorce lawyer or a real estate person. But we could sit with each other while she opened that lid and dealt with one piece of paper at a time. And when she realized she had to make a phone call, we'd say, do you want me to call for you? Phone call she was dreading. And paper by paper, she slayed her paperwork dragon. That's the power of love and accountability. And I feel like that model is something that we're just not doing for each other. It's all there. There's so many people in this room who really love each other. Wouldn't you be willing to help each other get something done like this if you felt like it would really help them out? And then they would do it for you. Wouldn't that be, it's fun. And I got my 1 year of my photos organized. So the buddy system is great. Really great. Got my timing here. I just want to make sure I don't run over. Okay. So when support and accountability aren't enough, okay, the buddy system's not working for you. You're getting love, you're getting support, people are asking you to get stuff done, and it's still not happening. DEFCON 2. We have to get really, really, really down to brass tacks. And I'm here to give you the 2 most powerful tools I know for fighting that deep down resistance. You're so resistant to something that it gives you a headache, you want to take an aspirin, you want to walk away, you don't want to think about it. That kind of resistance to getting something done. You have to understand, and some of you know about the amygdala. Did I pronounce that right? The amygdala. I used to think it was one thing, but it's actually in both sides of you. And it's this really powerful, primitive little lizard brain. It's your friend who lives in your brain, and the amygdala, you evolved. God hardwired you for this. You evolved so that when you spotted danger, you froze. Okay, that's your amygdala, keeping you really safe. And it had another job. It needed to keep you fat and happy, as many calories as possible. Don't run away, unless something's chasing you. Go jogging. That doesn't make any sense, right? Nothing's chasing you. It wants to make sure that you have enough calories so you can survive. So it wants to keep you safe, and it wants to keep you chubby. That's its job. But it hasn't gotten the memo yet that we're in the 21st century with these long ago bodies, right? That's how I think of him. I think of a dragon, and it's a good dragon. He's on your side. He's just trying to protect you from every danger, but he freezes you into resistance. He shuts you down. He's hapless. He protects you from real dangers. Good, he helps you when the bear's chasing you. If you ever cross the street, if your amygdala didn't work, you'd be in trouble. But the problem is he always wants to protect us from the good risks as well. Our lizard brain doesn't know the difference between a really good risk and a challenge, like getting up in front of people and talking, or a bear attacking them. Your amygdala, it's the same thing. And that's why people get so scared and nervous when they come up in front of other people. But let's say you want to do something scary, something potentially even has the downside of the thing that we fear the most as human beings. What do we fear more than bears? More than bears, what are we afraid of as human beings?
Loss.
Loss and isolation, right? Shame, isolation, separation from others. And this is him coming in and saying no to the jogging shoes and yes to the pillow pack size of M&Ms. I don't know if you've seen those in Walmart, but they're so big. Oh yeah. So he's he doesn't get the memo that we have enough calories now, right? We're fine. No. Again, don't run if nothing's chasing you. So these two tools I'm about to teach you are a way of lulling him into a sense. We can't get rid of him. I mean, we need him because we have to cross the street. What we have to do when we get up to do something hard or that takes a lot of work and a lot of exertion, like cleaning the attic, that's when he's like, no, don't burn the calories. I don't want you to think about it. We have to convince our amygdala that the change we're using is so small, so unimportant that somehow it doesn't even count as worth it to get up and defend us, right? We just have to keep it lulled into a sleep. And these two tools are so that you don't wake up your resistance. They sort of sneak around it. And I've used these for hundreds of people, and they're the things I still get written about now that people are using every single day. Now, there she is, rock star, Annie Lamott. I think she's an Episcopalian, isn't she?
Yeah.
One of us. She wrote a wonderful book called Bird by Bird. And in it, she talks about, you guys have read that, some of you? Yeah. And writers here, are they writers here, people who love to write? Yeah. Okay. So you know about the power of shame. And, and she doesn't actually call this technique spitty first drafts. If you think of something that sounds kind of like spitty. But I tried using the correct word once with a bunch of really traditional Episcopalians, and it was like the screensaver just went right up. So I can say shitty in front of you guys, probably. But the idea is you lower the stakes so you don't call your resistance into action, right? What you do is you tell that little amygdala that's trying to protect you from shame, not that you're going to write the great American novel. Oh my gosh. All of a sudden, writers here, hold up your hand if you're a writer. That voice on your shoulder saying, who do you think you are? And if we read that out loud, it's all those dreams. Someone's going to read it out loud and think and just find out how stupid you are, right? So you don't want to arouse that. What you want to do is tell it, this doesn't really count. It's just a spitty first draft. I'm just going to get some stuff down there, and there probably won't be much that's good in there, but there might be one or two things among the spit that I can use later. It is great for tackling perfectionism. Anyone here a recovering perfectionist? Yeah. Pardon? Or active? Right here with you, right? We struggle. It's a condition. This is the best tool I can give you, the people you love, the people you work with, for dealing with perfectionism. Perfectionism is a bane. It's a disease, and it's responsible for more failed, beautiful dreams than almost anything out there. We all have logistical obstacles. Of course we do. Time, money, health, all those things. But more dreams get shut down at this level than all the other things combined. And I've had to work with people over and over who are so terrified about doing something new because they might not get it right, and it might be shameful. And who are you to think of doing that? Do you recognize her? Is it Brenny or Brene? Brene Brown. She's a rock star right now. And she had the revolutionary idea that vulnerability, the thing your amygdala has, told you, never be vulnerable, is actually the only way forward for people. And that perfectionism is a shield that comes between people. So her quote, and I love it, is perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect, look perfect, and I've missed a word there, and just substitute something, be perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. That's what's happening. Your amygdala is trying to save you from being isolated. And so perfectionists often have their shoulders like this. They're defended. She talks about perfectionism as being a shield, and you think it's going to protect you. But what it does is it makes it so no one else can see you. It's a shield that blocks people from being able to see you. So I work with a lot of perfectionists. And here's one reason it's really hard to get over. Charles Dickens, right? You hear that name and it's like Masterpiece Theater, Charles Dickens. And when you think of him, you think of the leather-bound volumes. And, you know, he's just one of our icons, one of our literary greats. And it's almost like he took dictation from heaven. That's how writers like me respond when they hear Charles Dickens. And they look at themselves and they think, oh, it's just me and a laptop. I mean, Charles Dickens, right? So wouldn't it be amazing if we could get a peek behind the scenes and watch Charles Dickens actually write A Christmas Carol? Was he taking dictation from God? No, anybody who's written anything knows that's not how it happens, right? But we don't get a peek behind the scenes, or do we? Okay, so my father blew my mind. He took me to the Morgan Library of Manuscripts in New York. And that is Charles Dickens' second or third draft of A Christmas Carol. You can kind of read it at the top. It says, Stave 1, Marley's Ghost. Marley was dead. Now look at this. Isn't this great? Scratch outs. There's like, you know, if you thought, oh, Charles Dickens wrote this, I can't believe he scratched it out. It was Charles Dickens. How could he do that, right? But he was playing with ideas. He was substituting words. This is the way that art gets made. It's the way any new thing gets made. But you have to give yourself permission to play. Artists are just kids, you know, who never really grew up. They keep giving themselves permission to play and experiment. And it's permission we need to give each other when we try any new thing. So keeping really low standards. I love a low bar. I think we were talking about, someone was talking about that last night. Low bars are the best. And so let's get low bars. This is anti-cultural here. You disturbance you. Low bars to people. Just try it. Try a little bit of it. One little smidge. It's going to be really bad. Of course it's going to be bad. You're new at this. Kids try new things all the time because they're used to not being good at stuff. It doesn't bother them. They don't expect to be good at it. If you put a bunch of paints in the middle of a table and you got 10 adults around that table and said, paint me a picture, well, there'd be one, right? There's one person like, yay! And then people like me are like, oh boy, you know? What if you got 10 3-year-olds around there and said, paint me a picture? Oh, they'd tear right into it, right? They'd open up the stuff and they'd smell it and they might put their fingers in it and they would start doing things. And they would start making art because kids are artists. They just never, they don't have that sense of, well, what if I'm judged by it? So we need to help people get back to spitty first drafts and setting your bar low and playing with things. And it's not just with art, it's with anything. You know, if you've got a presentation to make and you're nervous about it and you're getting up in front of people and you're gonna fall on your face or whatever, or you're talking to a client or someone you work with and they've got to do something new and hard, give them the chance to have a lot of drafts, right? And the first draft can be terrible, really terrible. If someone has to call a parent and speak a truth to them and they're terrified of doing it, right? The possibility of rejection. Let's try a spitty first draft, okay? I'll sit here and you be you be the caller and I'll be the terrible parent who's going to reject you. And you can role play it. And they'll say, I don't know what to say. Just say any word at all, and it'll be okay. And get them to start, and then they'll laugh because the word will be something ridiculous like egg timer, okay? And then you'll start playing with it, and you'll have a second draft and a third draft. But to get people over the fear of trying something new, give them permission to have spitty first draft. It's incredibly liberating. So I just have to check my time here. Okay. Second idea, micro movements. Micro movements. Look carefully at that clock. For those of you who aren't standing right next to it, may not be able to see it, it's just a normal clock until at the last minute things get really tight together. Is this anyone's life right here? Procrastinators? Procrastinators and perfectionists. Yeah, okay.
That's why. Put it off because we can't be perfect.
That's right. And they do go hand in hand. This is the best, most effective tool I know for breaking through procrastination. So many people on the teams I lead have been trying to do some important things for a long time, and they just keep putting them off. You know, they know they've got a wonderful book in them. They know that if they just, I don't know, made that phone call, they'd get re-registered and they wouldn't have to worry about it anymore, but they keep putting it off. And again, it's your amygdala either protecting you from the fear of it, of doing it, or just the inertia of it. You know, inertia is really wonderful. I love living in inertia. Yeah. Every great achievement is just a series of tiny steps made one after the other, right? Everything, baby steps. Whose life is lived in baby steps? What do you guys give advice to people? Baby steps, right? It's I mean, the 12-step movement, everything is based on steps. The Sistine Chapel, that's a lot of micro movements put together, but you know, that was one. And Silent Spring and the marches that happened. It took someone at some point talking to a friend and saying, well, what about this? What do we do next? I don't know. Maybe we'll talk to one person, right? Micro movements. They're really powerful. Blah. Who thinks they've got the dirtiest closet in here? Okay, Valerie's hand just like went right up there. Okay. Some people look at this and they think, yay! Who love cleaning closets? Who loves cleaning other people's closets? No? Okay, we don't have any closet cleaner here. All right. So I'm going to give you the idea of the size of the movement, okay, when I talk about micro movements and how you can get this tool into people's hands. If I were going to ask you, what is the tiniest thing I could do to make an advance toward that?
Open the door.
That's my actual closet. Yeah. Open the door. That's it. You've done your micro movement. That's your whole assignment for the day, right?
I have a confession.
Stephanie.
I have a confession because one of my goals in a dream.
We used to call it dream team, but everybody got it confused with the basketball people.
Well, I didn't dare to tackle the diaconate on the dream team, so I tackled my basement storeroom. And my confession is, although the dream team worked perfectly with the buddy system and all this encouragement and accountability, as I walked out the door yesterday to come here, it is in worse shape now than it was then. So,
are you looking for an intervention?
I may need a buddy.
It works.
It works. Doesn't mean that it's not going to happen again, but it's a great tool to have when you just keep procrastinating on the same thing. I've given you some pencils and some stickies. They're on the corner. They're bright stickies on the very corner of your desk. If you guys would all just grab one, peel off a sticky and pass them down. Help people find them who don't see them. What I'd like you to do is write down one thing that's on your to-do list that you absolutely dread. Yeah. You know, the kind of thing that, you know how when you have a to-do list, if you have a to-do list, sometimes there's a chore or a thing and you just keep changing it from one to-do list to the next. After you cross everything else out, it sort of rides to the next one. Yeah, those adhesive ones, if you've got one of those, that's what you should write down. Something that you just keep putting off because the thought of it fills you with dread. For me, it's the 50 flaking shutters on my house. Dread, 50 flaking shutters. Well, it's an old rotten house that has 3 stories and an attic, and it's fallen apart.
Just write a story about it.
Write a story about it. I like that. Okay, so what I'm going to challenge you to do right now is, as you think about it, can you sort of feel your amygdala in there going, oh no, ugh. Can you feel the resistance when you look at that? I have to tell you, the emotional temperature in this house, in this place, just went down about 10 degrees when you started writing about these things. I was like, oh. Well, I have some good news for you. You're going to recognize some of yourself and other people. You're going to have some of the similar things. But I'm going to challenge you now to think of what's the tiniest thing you could do to get started on it. And I've got chocolate, because I have a chocolate ministry as well. Where is Jane here? I brought her some. Is Jane here? Where did she go? Oh, she's not here. I brought, she likes Bitter's chocolate, so I brought her some. So anybody, because the power of rewards is one of the big things we work with. If anybody is willing to work with me and help design a micro movement for their dreaded chore, I have chocolate. And I have, this is your amygdala. Okay? And I chose him when my father gave him to me. He said, I gave this to you because it reminded me of you. And he meant because, you know, it's kind of whimsical, but I thought, really, Dad? Nose and everything, huh? I inherited my dad's nose. But the reason I use him is because I think it's really helpful to think of it objectively as something going, you want to get to know your resistance. You want to start recognizing it so you can pull out these tools when it happens. You can say, time for a spitty first draft, or I need a micro movement here. So if you think of it as this small, hapless thing that's sort of up there in your brain, and he's not fierce, right? He's on your side. He's trying to protect you. And we can't get rid of him. You know, God hardwired him right into you. But we can get him to settle down and not feel like he has to defend us. Did anybody write down a really dreaded chore? Yeah, you did? Okay. Sudie, I'm coming at you with the chocolate. You like chocolate? So I'm going to ask you something. Just a sec. This is the lucky table, right? I have to unload it all here. Okay. I know, right?
Yes.
Go big or go home. That's what I say. So, Sudie,
Yes.
are you willing to share what your dreaded thing is?
Well, I have several boxes of paper and junk mail.
Right? So he's right up there, and he's like, Sudie, step away from the pile. That's so much work. Go and do something. Have some ice cream.
Oh, no, just go stitch a little bit.
Go stitch a little bit.
Yeah, stitching. Yeah, that's right. So what is one tiny little movement that you could do so that he's totally chill? He's totally relaxed. He doesn't need to defend you. That's two things. She said, open the drawer of the desk and look and see what's in there. That's the extra credit. You can open a drawer, right? Just follow me around. It's your microphone. All right. Does anybody else have a dreaded chore they're willing to share? skills. And the stakes are so high, right? It's financial, it's emotional, right? You've got, he's so awake. He's so trying to protect you, right? He's like rigid on you, right? What is one tiny thing you could do to make progress at all and Sudie, you're going to have him just go to sleep right on her, okay? So that he can go to sleep. Oh, no, he's not going anywhere. Sorry. You're going to have to work with her, okay? You're going to have to soften her up. What's one tiny thing you could do? Small, really small. Think really small. You're thinking too big, I can tell from your face.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is making an appointment with my therapist.
What a brilliant, Mike, did you hear that? Make an appointment with her therapist. Seriously, right?
The woman died 11 years ago. One piece of paper has to be filed. One. Yeah.
Wait a minute. So you're saying that one piece of paper and then you're done?
Yeah, I'm a lawyer too.
Okay. This is amazing.
Let's do the deacon thing.
What did you say, April?
I said, let's do the deacon thing.
What would deacons do?
Deacons we'd probably come up close to her and say, what's going on for you? Because it sounds like there's something else that is bothering you. And is it about the paper or is it about letting go?
Well, why the hell is she so well trained?
So we're going to have, right, just one. So here, and thank you, by the way, for sharing this, because this is a big deal, right? It's a really big deal. So let's say I had a magic wand and I could whisk April to be next to you when you were dealing with this, okay? Because she's going to love you through this. She's going to bring her dog. Sandy, you can hold Sandy, right? Okay, so we're going to get you, that's the buddy system, right? We're going to get you a buddy to help you through this, and she's going to support you, maybe hold you a little accountable, but you still got to get you, she's not going to fill it out for you, right? Right, so, oh man, so you've got, we were talking about earlier, tears are just truth leaking out, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
so,
That was very nice.
what if you can hold on to them if you want.
No, that's okay.
You're good. But one of the things that's powerful about micro movements is that you still have to file the thing. And we have to get you there. And I want to give you this tool as something, we are, like you've got 50 people now who are on your side. We're all your buddies right now, right? So get a buddy and I want to give you a micro movement. All right. All right. Ready? Hold. Will you hold? Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to, just give it to her. She's going to have to hold him. Right. Okay. If you want the chocolate, there you go. Okay.
I want the chocolate.
You want the chocolate and the therapist. Okay. You mentioned calling your therapist. Is that seriously something that's going to help you along? Talk to me about that. Is that what you want to do?
Actually, I sort of meant it as a joke, but not really, because I'm kind of like crying a little bit here. So
Okay.
obviously it's not a joke. I don't know.
All
I
right.
don't know.
Where is there like a physical form that's around somewhere? Do you know where it is? Okay. Your micro movement's becoming clearer as we talk. Okay. So do you know what room it might be in?
I think I have to go to a courtroom in Worcester County and get it.
Do you hear the obstacles there? It's not in her house. She has to go to, would you live anywhere near there?
I live in Westboro.
In Westboro? Okay, so it's, I don't know how distance?
hour away.
Half an hour, okay. So it's half an hour away. So you've got, it's a remote, from because it's not in front of you saying, do me, it's out there. Okay. Do you know that's where it is or you're not sure?
Somebody told me something 11 years ago that's where it was when she died.
Okay.
I don't know,
So how can we get you the right information about the next thing to do? Like help her, right? Help her.
Call the clerk of court.
Would the clerk of courts know that kind of information?
Google it.
You Google it.
Like, seriously.
And I don't think so, because I think she's gonna have to prove some kind of power of attorney or something.
Okay, that's further down the line, but it sounds like she needs a piece of information, right? Piece of information. This is, where's the paper and what do I do? She needs information. One of the greatest micro movements though, it's because it has such a low bar, is Googling something, right? Do you think, there you go. She did.
I could Google.
So give that woman a lot of chocolate. Okay. Okay. So we're going to we're going to have you write down, Google, and what are you going to Google? Just put it in a sentence for us.
How to close in the state of Massachusetts.
Okay. Just do that. And you know what? It's one micro movement is just keep it coming. So when she does that, when she Googles it, lots of things are happening inside her at that moment, okay? First of all, she's taking an action. It's a tiny action, but it's an action. And one action, as you know, often gets a little momentum. Not always, but often. Micro movements are a way of breaking through being stuck. And the thing is,
I wrote it down.
you wrote it down. Have more chocolate. The thing is that when you write it down and you look at it and you break it down into a tiny little action and you're still not doing it, you know you've got one of these really resistant micro movements. You might even make an appointment with yourself. You know, right? An appointment. And then you can take it and you can make it amazing, because then we're going to have April call you and say, did you Google for 3 minutes at 10 o'clock on Thursday? That's how you put these tools together. You bring in the power of support. You bring in the power of accountability, and you chip away at things and keep your resistance down. Yes,
I have the answer.
Oh,
There's somebody says, wow.
okay.
See, we're not gonna let you get out of it.
This is buddy system.
This is the buddy system on steroids, right? Right? 50 deacons in a room, all focusing on loving and helping you. Oh, I know it's overwhelming. But right. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. So many people here have been through what you're going through and have felt, helpless. And the fact you're a lawyer, it doesn't matter. This is your mom, right? Yeah. So,
I have a question.
Jan. Here.
Maybe it's a comment.
Yeah.
But
question or comment, I don't know what's coming out, but when you started talking with Lori, I was thinking with my own little thing on the list that I think for me, I am an organizational development person. Okay. I have development person, methodologies, project plans, and I know how to get things done. Okay. So even the concept of micro moment or whatever, that's fine. But I think for things like what Lori is dealing with or what I have on my list isn't about the process. I think it's more about the emotion that's attached to it. And so it's not a process issue as much as it is an emotional. And trying to get to that is, I think, a little bit more difficult.
So even though we know what the process is, being stuck at the beginning of the process because you're emotionally tangled up with it, having the buddy who will call you and say, did you call the clerk of courts at 10 o'clock this morning? Or did you fill in the blank? Then that's the thing that helps you get around that tangled up emotional mess to do the process thing that you need to do. So.
I agree, but I think the key, Lori, was call your therapist. I mean, for me, I think that's the key, because there is, well, probably it is a both and. Well,
Always call your therapist.
exactly. So I want Stan to be my buddy because he's a therapist.
April, can I ask you something? Did you write down something?
No.
You didn't? Okay.
Because I know what it is, so I didn't write it down.
Okay. Okay.
I have things at home that I've collected to do. I have things at home that I've collected to donate, and I need to go and drop them off. And dropping them off is out of my way. So I have a really good intention, but I haven't followed through on it.
So Cindy's appearing behind you.
Over here it
Here it
comes.
comes, okay? And the reason that I chose you, April, is because you responded so loving. And what is your name? Because I don't have your name tag on. Lori. I'm sorry, name. The reason I chose you is because you guys are partners now, right? You're partners. Yeah, you're buddies. So tell us again about the donation thing. Tell us all about it. What does your car look like? Where do you have to go? Give us the details.
All right.
The
I
deets.
have one of the car I drive is like a little Corolla. So
It's small.
yeah, okay. I have a small car. So what might happen is it might take more than one trip. And I would like to do it in one trip. And that's not going to be possible. So I don't do it at all.
I could meet you and go with you, and my car's bigger.
Oh.
And you're already networking it on the
Oh. Oh, wow. Yeah.
So would you say that, yeah, there you go. Thank you, Chocolate Fairy. Right, because you got a buddy right there. He's going to sleep. Yeah. But I want to ask you, what's one tiny step that you could take, just to get something to the donation center or something into the car or some way to start the process that you're avoiding? Where is the stuff right now?
It's like in the bedroom and
It's not gathered?
well, it's in bags, but I know what the issue is. I actually had bariatric surgery and weighed over 125 pounds. And so I have this thing that I might need those clothes again. And so I don't see myself as who I am. I have one. I call it, I got a collar. So I don't see myself all the time as the reflection in the mirror. I still see myself as that person who had to lose that.
Yes. So you're talking, thank you for sharing that. I know I just put that right on you. And thank you for sharing that. That's powerful. And it's also a powerful example of how things like this, as you were saying, are complicated or tangled, right? So you guys, if you're buddies, right, you're going to have, and this person next to you who's just so on your team and keeps saying, I've got a car, I've got a car, I've got a car, right? They're going to help you with that part of it. You've got deacons for buddies. How lucky are you, right? You can't get a better buddy. But just to break through the resistance of the moment when it's time for you, because you don't always have your buddies around, right? At some point you're going to be in your house and you're going to have to do something with one of those bags. What's the tiniest thing you could do where your resistance is going to fall asleep? It seems like such a small thing.
I think that I could, when I leave the house and go out the back door, I could put one bag in the porch and I park near the back porch.
So carry the bag to the porch.
And I have to go to work, so every day.
Yep.
And I have to let the dog out.
Right. So it's sort of putting it, do you all ever do that? Sort of put your car keys in the fridge or whatever it is, like, yeah. So what you would write down, I'm going to ask you to write it down, is take one bag to the porch. Lori, can I put you and April together?
Yes, I'll take her rummage and she can close my estate.
Right? And what's funny about that is that would actually kind of work, right? I mean, you look at the bags and you think, I can do that. There's no baggage with that. Ha ha ha. And she thinks filing something in court, not only would she be like, I'm going to do this to help Lori, but she hasn't spent the last 10 years being emotionally laden with that. So that's how you all can share each other's burdens. Now, this is where we're going to kick it up a notch, and you guys may not be willing to do this, but if you are, it will be a wonderful example to all of us, because this is where it gets really powerful. Are you willing just to make an email date with each other? An email date. So the email date looks like you choose a time and a date, and we do this in Wayfinders. Every week when we have our meetings, buddies have a time and a date just to check in between meetings on a buddy call. And it's always a step that you're going to take that week. 90% of the steps get done 15 minutes before the buddy call, because that's just the way we work. Doesn't matter. Accountability is amazing, right? So what I'm hoping is that if you and you make a date, I like phone calls more than email. I'm just going to say the power of someone's voice on there, if you know you're going to be talking to them and they're going to say, April, did you move the bag? It's really different than getting a text or a thing. And but if it doesn't work, you guys can just text or email each other. But I want to know. I want you guys to tell me. You've got my address. You've got my stuff. I want to know. Did you Google for 5 minutes to look it up? April, did you carry the bag out to the back stairs? Micro movements get turbocharged when we hook in our buddies with them and build in some love and some accountability. Do you know how happy she's going to be for you when she hears that you got that form done? We all will be, right? Do you know how happy we'll be for you when you feel that you've taken your possessions and done with them in a way that feels good to you, that you found a way to do that, however you decide to do that? Because it's, as Jan was saying, it's really complicated. What you're talking about is super complicated. Thank you guys so much for letting me put you on the spot. So I'm going to ask you to later just get together and make an appointment to do your micro movement and call each other. And then will one of you email me and tell me how it went? And if you guys are all wondering, how is this going to turn out? It's like a wonderful, with their permission, I'm going to put it right on the link. You have a link to my website, wayfinders.me, and I have a tools tab. And with their permission, I'm going to put the ending of their story up there. And you can go look and see if they did it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now we're a little beyond.
Wow, that's not a micro movement right there.
Right? Well, if you don't want me to, there'll just be a blank space, but we'll see. Now, if that doesn't get you Googling for 2 minutes, we've built in accountability, we've built in support, we've built in a date. I know. Melanie, come closer to her. She's kind of, there you go. Just a little presence, power of your presence, right? No. I'm going to miss you guys. I tell you, it's not like this where I live. These guys, first of all, these guys just were super vulnerable in front of everybody, right? Yeah. And it doesn't take long to go from a dreaded chore straight to the heart of something really difficult. But I've worked with people who are facing really hard things that they've been putting off for years for all these reasons, the kind that Jan was talking about, complicated emotional reasons. And this puts a tool in people's hands to break through that inertia. And again, one little movement leads to the next. I've seen it happen over and over and over again. Are any of you already teaching this basically to the people you work with in your ministries? The power of tiny steps, a little bit? Yep. Yeah. And tell them this is, okay, now my truth is going to leak out, right? Tell them that if they can't get something done, it's not because they don't have enough willpower. Willpower is such an overrated, I love being able to just be crying up here. Willpower is such an overrated thing, right? Willpower. It's a very rare gift. Some people have it. My husband has some. I don't need to have it because he has it. I just hook into his. Like when I want to exercise, he just drags me off with him. I don't have to do it. He just picks me up and takes me with him. I like chain into his willpower. I have almost none. The message for the people you love and work with is willpower is so overrated. If you're having trouble getting something done, don't bring more willpower. Make the step even tinier. Make it think about Googling. If you can't Google, I'm going to think about Googling. Maybe I can do that before my resistance wakes up. If you can't bring yourself to bring the bag down, think about it or look at the bag. Make it smaller until your resistance is asleep. Does that make sense? It's such a simple thing, but it's so powerful, especially if you combine it with the power of love and accountability. And that and the Spitty first drafts and then the buddy system, that's like a 1, 2, 3 punch for getting things done. And I've just watched people do amazing things. Mm. Micro movements and spitty first drafts, power of a buddy. You want this guy sleeping as much as you can. The reason I put a toddler up there, you all are toddlers, runs, right? Right? You know what you learned to do in the first 2 years of your life? Well, 1 year really. You did something amazing. You learned to speak a language. You learned to walk. Anyone remember learning how to walk? I'm still waiting for someone to say, I remember. Learning how to walk is incredibly complicated. If you talk to people who are therapists, who are working with people who are trying to learn how to walk, not the way kids do, but who have to teach themselves to do it, there's, 730,000 movements that have to happen. And the thing is, a toddler, one, doesn't have toddlers have no sense of shame, right? That's why they're toddlers. And they have no sense of shame about trying new things. And they do something amazing. They do a little micro movement at a time. Pull yourself up. Pull your.
Once a month, we host webinars to more and sharing their ministries with them. And so it's free, obviously, and it's the third Thursday of every month. We have signed up for the rest of the fall, and sometimes they take a picture of like we have Lori talking about AED and Keith McCoy talking about Oh, well, then. So, hey, except that one we have paper. Anyway, so June 6th to 9th, 2019. Take out your little iPhones now, open up calendar and put that down. Providence, Rhode Island. We are hosting the triennial once every 3 years meeting for the leaders from across the country. Providence one, well, Rhode Island, Diocese of Rhode Island is the local planning team. And I've already talked to the archdeacons throughout the province. Every diocese is going to be involved in that. So our volunteers waiting in things for us to connect with you. They help with this. Volunteers to help people find a way around the hotel, et cetera, for work and registration desk. Anyway, stay tuned. We're going to be coming out to you to help and help across the country. Good night. For a fabulous conference. Here's the name of it. Listen to this. Money for this week. This is the name of the triennial. The Power of Hope. Transforming through reconciliation and relationship. That's the starting with presiding Bishop Curry as preacher and at the opening Eucharist and the keynote speaker the following day, followed by 8 workshops from deacons across the country sharing their ministries of reconciliation, the environment, and evangelism. It's just amazing. She's about ready to scream in her seat. So, Providence, Rhode Island. It's going to be at the Renaissance Hotel. We're going to the Center for Reconciliation. The program in the afternoon, which is in Providence, is a short walk from the cathedral. We have transportation all over the place, if you want to worry about that. And there are only 280 slots for attendees. So when the registration comes out in March timeframe, and Saturday night, we're taking buses down to Trinity Church Newport, the school church in the colonies. And that's where we will celebrate Saturday night Eucharist. So, with transportation, it's going to be a fabulous conference. June 6th through 9th. So, starting Thursday, summertime, through Sunday midterm. And you will have an opportunity to be part of the Association for the Episcopal Deacons, which is the most amazing organization for deacons ever known. Because we collaborate, we work together, we share, and we do what?
Yes, Jan has had a conversation with the archdeacons. Let me tell you how that went. Jan talked, we listened. What a segue. AED, we are just pleased to have Brenda's Ryan as the director, the executive director of the Association of Episcopal Deacons, as well as Mike Hagan, who's the president. I don't want to make you stand up because I'm not there. Maybe the two.
I want to say one thing about the training. We're trying a really interesting thing about training. We're doubling the capacity of training.
she is, Natalie Finston. How old are you, Natalie Finston? 42? No. There you go. Okay, so she's the perfect example. So I'm going to hand this over to Maureen, but I wanted to say we had a wonderful time at General Convention, and there's lots of really great resources. So if you haven't been on our website concerning NEDN, there you are. How you doing? If you haven't been on our website concerning resources for all your capital formation and ministry, please do look at it. And then join the organization. Okay, this is the only organization that is funded by the non-stipendiary order of the church. This makes no sense. We've got things to do, we've received places to go, and advocacy to do. And if you're not a member of AED, it's really very inexpensive, and your diocese should be a member. Everybody should be a member of AED. It's $40, the best $40 you ever spent. And then, there is, and I always like to bring this up, there's this really cool thing happening with the church pension. I've been in the church pension for years, and the church pension group has just completed 3 years ago its first ever survey of the well-being pertaining to deacons, and they have just discovered, their research shows that only about 1/3 of the deacons that are about 40% of the deacons that are compensated by a religious institution, there are more and more all the time, have our assessments paid. So I've got this little side gig going on to help people interact with church pension group. So if you need to talk to me about that, AED and the fund for the active are working forward on trying to figure out, okay, so if we have a different kind of church, how is this going to work for all of us in a world of justice? So I'm going to hand this over to Maureen. Okay, the church pension group is the organization that provides pensions and generally medical care for clergy who are stipendiary in the Episcopal Church. Okay, so your priest very likely has a pension that's provided by the church pension group. The reason why this is important is that canon law requires that if anyone, any cleric, deacon or priest or bishop is compensated by the Episcopal Church, assessments on their whatever that compensation is need to be paid. The church pension group has recently discovered through a very, very comprehensive survey, 60% return rate on the survey, which is unheard of. They discovered that very few deacons are compensated for whatever they're compensated for, get their assessments paid. And they're eagerly trying to move forward on helping deacons know that canon law requires that they're compensated. You need to discuss this question with whoever you need to discuss this question with. So the only reason why I'm making such a big deal about this is we are moving into an era where many of us are under pressure to morph into cheap carrots. And we really need to be aware that we can either do this in a way that allows the church to take responsibility for how they're financing their parishes or not. That there also are many services available through church pension group that are available for us as well. Yeah. Yes, if you have, that's quite true. Many of us have no idea because we're told, oh, you're a deacon, you're not in the pension fund. That is not correct. It never was correct. A cleric is cleric is cleric. Your clerics, you receive compensation from your church. Assessments must be made. And we're becoming aware. Deductions from your compensation to fund benefits through pension. That is required. And we're just finding out, it's been like 5 years, we're well aware that many deacons are compensated in some half-time way. Many deacons are, it usually happens, frequently happens with people who are chaplains. So there's 3 chaplains in a Episcopal school. The priest have a pension and the deacon is not. The deacon is functioning as a cleric in the Episcopal school. Hospitals, you have 3 priests and deacon, and the priests are put into the pension fund, and the deacon goes into the hospital pension fund, which is not very good. So those are the kinds of questions. There's a lot, and we can't obviously go over everything. We have a total of 15 minutes. lot of ways to get involved. Some people couldn't even attend, but they were involved. And I would encourage all of you to start thinking about general prevention. It's in Baltimore. Baltimore is not that far. And I hope there's so many different ways to be involved, and especially if you want to basically be involved in any sort of advocacy, thinking of ways that you may want to teach in the church. I encourage deacons to run for office. I mean, my diocese, we've never had a deacon's deputy, and then I also encourage you to run for anything you can. A deacon's voice needs to be heard. So often I hear from deacons, but I'm a deacon, I'm not really, don't want to really get involved with all that church politics, all that dirty stuff. And I go, frankly, we need to be. I mean, if anything, to be a voice. Your presence is important. Try to be as present as you can be. I would also say, be active, in social media any way you can be. We have 2 social media accounts on Facebook, AED group and AED page. Sign up for both. I don't know, half the people seem to sign up for one and half sign up for the other, and sometimes I feel both. One is more official, the page is more official, the group is where you can have dynamics, and this page you get to know what's happening. So general convention was covered quite a lot of detail was given to it over the summer. A couple of interesting things. Spanish translation. The Diocese of Rhode Island is engaging in Spanish translation of materials and getting very involved with what that might look like, both for lay and for deacons. And Luego Amanecer on Sandoval. Oh, they said yesterday, but that's the new dawn. It was in August. It's on Latino Hispanic Ministries. We were talking with the Bishop of Rhode Island and also one of the big people that's in charge of organizing this. So we're very deeply involved in trying to get more materials available in Spanish. If you are interested in getting more involved with anything that is related to AD, to Lori, which is right down the road, or me, and these are some of the areas that you can be involved in. Try any longer. They say, if you want to volunteer, she's going to want you to volunteer. It's like, finance committee, if you're fundraising, you've got skills in fundraising. Lori will love you forever in a day. Right? Yeah, she needs to really have an experience in that area. Social justice, I know that sounds super funny to you, but just in case if it were. We also are working with, we're having new, like I said, new Spanish group, and there's Juan and I, Nate Farragut are on it, but we'd love to have other people work with Latino congregations or people who are involved in the process. And also, speaking of Spanish, we are, at Nuevo Amanecer, I spoke with Bishop Tacuba, who I don't know if you know, that was one of the highlights of General Convention. They were re-admitted into the Episcopal Church. And I was talking to her last night, and I said, so, how do you have deacons? Do you have any deacons there? I said, well, we've got one. I said, oh, okay. Would you like more deacons? This is the question. Would you like more deacons? I said, love more deacons. I said, awesome. So, would you like us to maybe perhaps visit you and maybe talk about the diaconate a little bit? So that would be great. So so we're just in this very early stages, and we just talked about it. Executive committee, the idea that maybe some legal team will go to the document talk about the diaconate. So this is something, it's not going to be till next November, but something that we might be interested in doing, we can participate in this, let me know, Lori, and then we'll get your name on the list. And because I think it's really important to bring I recognize that the church is big. And a lot of times, at least in my diocese, a lot of members that they think about the parish, and they think about sharing what members' gifts and skills and advocacy with people in their own diocese, much less in the bigger church, much less in the big world. I think deacons need to think bigger, just in general. We need to think a little bit more politically, a little bit bigger. Think about where you can affect change. Because frankly, there's a lot of skill in this room. And the church doesn't believe that those things gifts. And we also know about providence
there's a recycle basket